Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group H. We are going to present a video on requirement engineering for web-based information system. So my name is Nur Syuhada binti Muhammad Lais Abdul Razak 1513888. Okay, so for the abstract of this research, we do the approach to requirement engineering for web-based information system. Okay, there is no system that can be carried out perfectly even when the project have been reached to the deployment phase, as the process of refining the requirements will always take part in order to make improvement for the system. It will always go through an ongoing process of negotiation. This happens because sometimes not everything can be discovered during the first phase of discovering the requirements. This is especially true of the volatile environments that characterize web-based information system (WBIS) development. Basically, this report are going to discuss about the approaches to requirement engineering for web-based information system that consists of methodologies to gather the requirements, stepwise prototyping approach, system development, disadvantage of prototyping approach, comparison of approaches, and identifying the stakeholders. This report is going to go deeply about the stepwise prototyping approaches that will cover the activities involved, ways how to improve, and the disadvantage that need to be counted off. Okay, next we proceed to the introduction. Okay, so most research define that web-based information systems are often claimed to have a development process actually a way different to be compared with traditional software systems. The most different part is the phase of requirement identification. There are so many different that can be highlighted to compare those two types of system. Each kind of WBIS model emphasizes distinct aspects of site design depending on its purpose. Some focus on supporting business-to-business transactions, the construction for business activity, and providing a system for the customer. Instead of that, they also focus on promoting organization brand, build their name in order to get market trust and credibility, yet some simply accentuate web contents, layout, navigation, and search for organizational information. As the most important part in requirement engineering are elicitation, analysis, and negotiation, specification, documentation, validation, and management. They have been implemented in each of the methods. Investigate purposely to know the way on how the requirements are actually took part with the requirement engineering activities, and how far actually these methods have been implemented and used into the community, especially when we talk about the industrial project and the tools that have been used for the development process, especially for requirement engineering. We also analyze the methodologies in order to help gathering the requirement, such as website design method, scenario-based object-oriented hypermedia design methodology, web modeling language, and lastly, design-driven requirement elicitation. To be focused on the web-based issues, many directly concern WBIS customers and thus necessarily absorb requirements engineers. The customer preference and wants going well beyond the system function and performance. Touch upon business organization and alliance, inter-organizational interaction, flow of supplies and products, business presence, and access to customer. During the system planning, there are few issues that need to be considered, such as stakeholders, sponsor, customers and users. The parties involved also included content developer and copyright consultants, marketing and public relations specialists, media planner, and what's so many. The fact that project stakeholders commonly hold conflicting opinions is well known to the requirement engineering community. In WBIS systems, however, these conflicts are not only in the need of the software system to be developed, but rather in the business process and objective of online buyers and sellers, and in the constraint imposed on the system by agencies regulating the financial transaction of determining compliance with with the laws and of the land and international treaties. As the requirement process sometimes needs continuous and extended time, this will be a problem when it comes to the time constraint, which leave very little time for any formal requirement gathering and their consolidation. Here, it can be said that statewide prototyping approach is basically related with web-based information. The iterative process of design, prototyping, and evaluation is usually observed, and normally it requires activity ranging from exploration, refinement, production, implementation, launching, maintenance, and discovery. While prototype-based development results in a shorter time to the market due to the use of ad hoc and unstructured development method. It's also lead to poor quality of web system and service, and ultimately result in a great number of unsatisfied users. Because stakeholder in this context is considered to be any individual, group, or organization whose actions can influence or be influenced by the development and use of the system, whether directly or indirectly. In case of information system development process, the direct stakeholders are of special importance as the main drivers of the requirements establishment process. There are different approaches to requirements engineering to web development, with a special emphasis on the stakeholder issues will be discussed and the significance of dealing with stakeholder concerns in the earlier stage of web development and the impact of this concern on the requirement engineering process.
Now, I will explain about the requirement engineering in web-based information system. The requirement engineering part is the crucial part in developing the system. Before developing any system, most developers will use these three main processes, which are the requirement elicitation, requirement specification, and also requirement validation. All these processes are important because throughout this, the development team can acquire certain knowledge about the problem domain as well as the system requirements. The requirement engineering processes normally starts with the requirement elicitation in order to collect information from the stakeholders and users. Then, it will then followed by the requirement validation in order to find out the inconsistencies or mistakes in the requirements. And lastly, requirement specification validation process will take place throughout the development of the system as it is an iterative process and will be executed when necessary. For each and every process that is being done in gathering requirements, there are so many techniques that can be used. Among the techniques are the JED, which is the Joint Application Development, brainstorming, concept mapping, and so many more. Other than that, the techniques that are normally being used in the requirement specification are natural language, glossary, and ontology, templates, scenarios, and few more techniques. Last but not least, the techniques that are being used for the requirement validation or review or walkthrough, audit, traceability, metrics, and so much more. Most of the techniques used are traditional and less suitable for the development of systems in web-based environment. It is not an easy task to determine the most suitable techniques as a lot of things should be taken into consideration in terms of scalability, cost, and many more. As we know, the development for the web-based system is basically different from the development of any other system. For example, the amount of stakeholders is much bigger and complex, so we should find a way that is more suitable techniques to get information in order to cater their wants and needs. There are few requirements needed to be considered for a web-based information system that are categorized into functional requirements and also non-functional requirements. For functional requirements, there are data requirements, interface requirements, navigational requirements, personalization requirements, transactional requirements, and for the non-functional requirements, there are so many things like reuse requirements, usability requirements, availability requirements, performance requirements, and so much more. So in order to gather all these required requirements, There are a few methodologies that can be used. Some of them will cover all the three main processes, but some of them use completely new processes. We can basically see how the requirement engineering has been evolved throughout the years as we see the methodologies. Among the methodologies that will be explained is the WSDM, which is the website design method, SOHDM, scenario-based object-oriented hypermedia design methodology, WebML, web modeling language, and also design-driven requirement elicitation. The first methodology that will be explained is WSDM, which is the Website Design Method methodology. WSDM is a user-centered approach for the development of websites that model the application based on the information requirements of the user's group. Its development process is divided into 4 phases. First one is user modeling, second one is conceptual design, third one is the implementation design, and the fourth one is the implementation. The user modeling part is where we should focus on, as the requirement processor will be done during that part. It aims on the identification of the different users' roles by performing the following 2 tasks. The first one is users classification, and the second one is users group description. In users classification is the identification of the potential users visitors of the website and their classification according to their interests and navigation preferences. WSDM proposes to analyze the organization environment where the application will be used and centers the attention on the stakeholders of the business processes supported by the application. In WSDM, the relationship between stakeholders and the business process activities performed are graphically represented by conceptual maps of roles and activities. Next one is users group description. It is the detailed description of the users groups identified in the previous task. The information requirements, functional requirements, and security requirements for each user's group are described with the help of a data dictionary. The remaining phases in WSDM process are based on the user's classification of this first phase. The next one is SOHDM, which is the Scenario-Based Object-Oriented Hypermedia Design Methodology. The SOHDM approach was the first approach stressing the importance of a process that allows the analyst to capture and define the application requirement. There are 6 tasks that will be performed during the life cycle of SOHDM, and the requirement engineering part will focus on the first one. The 6 tasks are analysis, object model realization, view design, navigational design, realization of the implementation, and also construction of the system. The requirement definition starts on designing a so-called context diagram, similar to the data flow diagrams. To build such a context diagram, the analyst has to identify the external entities that communicate with the application, and the events that trigger the communication between these entities and the application. The set of events is specified as a table showing the entities that participate in an event. SOHDM proposes to associate a scenario with each event. Scenarios are graphically represented using a proprietary notation called SAC, which is the Scenario Activity Chart. A scenario describes the interaction process between the user and the application when an event triggers an activity. It specifies the activity flow, objects involved, and transaction performed. SOHDM proposes a process to get the conceptual model of the application out of these scenarios. The proposed conceptual model is represented by a class diagram. The next step in the SOHDM development process is the regrouping of these classes with the objective to obtain a navigational class diagram. The third methodology is WebML, which is the Web Modeling Language. The Web Modeling Language is a high-level specification language for hypermedia applications. WebML follows the style of both entity relationship and UML, offering a proprietary notation and a graphical representation using the UML syntax. This notation is complemented with a set of activities to be performed for the development of web applications such as requirement specification, data design, and hypertext design. The methodology focuses on requirements collection and requirement specification. It proposes the use of techniques such as interviewing and analysis of documentation, but refrains from the use of prescriptive checklists for requirement capture. Requirements collection starts with user identification and personalization needs. In addition, data requirement and functional as well as non-functional requirements are gathered. To note is that navigation or specific hypertext structuring requirements are not treated separately. Requirement specification, and also called as requirement analysis, consists in a classical use case specification supplemented with a semi-structured textual description. The use of activity diagram is proposed by this method to express the workflow of complex use cases. A template-based description and mockup, which is also called sketches, are suggested for the specification of the site view and the style guidelines. Finally, acceptance tests are proposed mainly to check non-functional requirements. Last methodology that will be explained is the design-driven requirement elicitation. The design-driven requirement elicitation is a part of the design-driven process proposed by Lowe and Eklund in order to develop web application. It consists of capturing, defining, and validating requirements during the design process. The process is based on prototyping in order to explore possible solutions and problems to be solved. Users and customers define the requirement based on the study of these prototypes. It is an iterative process which consists of reducing customers' and clients' doubts. The cycle has three phases, which are the evaluation, the specification, and also construction phase. This design-driven process was defined based on an exhaustive analysis of best practices in the development of web commercial application. It treats all the requirements in the same manner. The requirements are content, interface protocol, navigational structure, look and feel, data internal representation, version, change control, security, content management, control access, efficiency, user monitoring, functional support, system adaptation, and so many more. In the comparison table of the next section, we use the short form DDDP for the design-driven development process. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll talk about stakeholders. Our stakeholders consist of customers, users, system developers, copyright consultants, creative and art directors, graphic designers, and also multimedia and interaction developers. For copyright consultants, we need them to avoid any issues between the design, the logo, or any kind of things that need copyright issues. Creative and art directors and also graphic designers to design our system. In conclusion, web-based information system has different development process compared to traditional software system. The most different part is requirements identification phase. So most important part in requirement engineering are elicitation, analysis, and negotiation, documentation, validation, and management. The most true things that our system really use are elicitation, negotiation, and validation. For our methodologies, we use our website design method, scenario-based object-oriented hypermedia design methodology, web modeling language, and design-driven requirement elicitation. We also have stepwise prototyping approach like exploration, refinement, production, implementation,
launching phase, discovery phase, and also maintenance. With all of this, we can create a good system. That's all from me. Thank you for watching.